A crow flies through a neighborhood. The crow is moving with purpose. The crow is not wandering randomly. The crow is not searching for direction. The crow knows exactly where it is. The crow knows exactly where it is going. The crow has a map in its mind. This map is not written on paper. This map is not viewed on a screen. This map exists in the crow's brain as a complete spatial representation of the neighborhood. The crow knows every street in this neighborhood. The crow knows every building. The crow knows every tree. The crow knows every location where food is found. The crow knows every location where danger lurks. The crow knows every location where safety exists. The crow knows the geography better than most humans who live there. The crow has lived in this neighborhood for years. The crow was born here. The crow has explored every corner. The crow has encoded every detail into memory. The crow's knowledge of the neighborhood is comprehensive. The crow's map is detailed. The crow's understanding of place is profound. But what is most remarkable is this: the crow does not just know the physical geography. The crow knows the social geography. The crow knows which humans are dangerous and which are safe. The crow knows which yards have food and which do not. The crow knows the patterns of the neighborhood, the rhythms, the routines, the seasonal changes. The crow has created a complete mental model of the entire neighborhood. Tonight you are going to understand what crows know about the neighborhoods they've lived in. And you are going to understand that crow intelligence includes a form of spatial and social knowledge that rivals human understanding of place. Welcome back to Hidden Backyard Wildlife, the channel where we sit with the small wild lives that share our yards and try to understand what they understand about the world. If you are new here, make sure you subscribe before this video is over, because what you are about to learn is going to change the way you understand crow cognition, because you will finally understand that crows possess spatial knowledge and memory that is nothing short of extraordinary. Crows are not just moving through their neighborhoods blindly. Crows are navigating with consciousness and knowledge and intention. Today we are walking through 8 things crows know about the neighborhoods they've lived in. What each of those things reveals about crow memory and spatial cognition. What researchers have discovered about corvid mental mapping. And why a crow that has lived in a neighborhood for years possesses a knowledge of place that is comprehensive, detailed, and accurate. Stay with me from beginning to end, because revelation number 6 is the one that explains the neurobiology of crow spatial memory. And revelation number 8 is the one that will make you understand that what the crow is doing is not just surviving in a place. The crow is truly knowing a place. The crow has written the neighborhood into its being. The crow carries the neighborhood in its mind and in its consciousness. The knowledge is real, the maps are mental, the understanding is profound. The first thing a crow knows about the neighborhood it lives in is the complete spatial layout. The crow knows every street. The crow knows the names of the streets, not the names as humans call them, but the crow's own sensory encoding of each street. The crow knows the feel of each street. The crow knows the look of each street. The crow knows the sounds of each street. The crow knows which streets are safe. The crow knows which streets have traffic. The crow knows which streets are quiet. The crow has encoded all of this information. The crow knows every pathway through the neighborhood. The crow knows the direct routes and the circuitous routes. The crow knows the pathways that avoid predators. The crow knows the pathways that lead to food. The crow has mapped every possible way to move through the neighborhood. The crow knows the three-dimensional layout of the space. The crow knows not just the ground level but the aerial pathways. The crow knows which trees provide good flight paths. The crow knows which utility wires create good perches. The crow knows the vertical geography as well as the horizontal geography. The crow's mental map is accurate. Research has shown that crows can navigate complex urban environments with precision. The crow's knowledge of the neighborhood is not approximate. The crow's map is detailed and correct. The encoding of this spatial knowledge happens through experience. The crow flies through the neighborhood repeatedly. Each flight encodes information. Each journey adds detail to the mental map. Over months and years of living in the neighborhood, the crow builds a comprehensive representation. The representation is not static. The crow updates the map. The crow incorporates new information. The crow revises understanding based on new experiences. The mental map grows and becomes more sophisticated over time. Researchers studying corvid spatial cognition have found that crows demonstrate accurate knowledge of complex environments, with crows showing the ability to navigate efficiently through urban neighborhoods, suggesting that crows create and maintain detailed mental maps of their territories. The streets are known, the pathways are mapped, the layout is encoded. Beyond the physical geography, the crow knows where food is located. The crow has identified every food source in the neighborhood. The crow knows which yards have seeds. The crow knows which trees have berries. The crow knows which restaurants leave food accessible. The crow knows which garbage can contain food. The crow knows which people leave out food intentionally. The crow's knowledge of food sources is location-specific. The crow does not just know that food exists. The crow knows exactly where each food source is located. The crow knows the precise location of the specific tree that produces berries. The crow knows which specific restaurant has food that can be accessed. The crow knows which specific yard owner leaves out seeds. The crow's knowledge is also temporally organized. The crow knows when different food sources become available. The crow knows the seasons when specific trees produce fruit. The crow knows the times of day when restaurants put out trash. The crow knows the days of the week when specific food sources are available. The crow has created a resource map. This map tells the crow where to find food and when. This map is constantly updated. When a food source is exhausted, the crow knows to move on to the next source. When a seasonal food source becomes available, the crow knows where to find it. The crow's foraging is efficient because of this knowledge. The crow does not waste energy searching randomly for food. The crow knows where to go. The crow has a foraging strategy based on the mental map of resources. Some food sources are high quality. The crow knows which locations provide the best food. The crow prioritizes these locations. The crow's route through the neighborhood is optimized to hit the best food sources efficiently. The crow also knows which locations are risky. Some locations have dangers, predators, traps, hostile humans. The crow incorporates this knowledge into the foraging strategy. The crow might avoid certain locations despite food availability if the risk is too high. Researchers studying corvid foraging strategies have found that crows demonstrate sophisticated knowledge of resource distribution, with crows showing optimized foraging routes that suggest accurate knowledge of food location and availability, indicating that crows maintain detailed resource maps. The sources are known, the locations are mapped, the strategy is optimized. 3. She knows which humans are dangerous and which are safe, a social and emotional geography. The crow knows more than physical and resource geography. The crow knows social geography. The crow distinguishes between different humans. The crow knows which humans are dangerous and which are safe. The crow has encoded information about specific humans and their behaviors. The crow knows the humans who set traps. The crow has learned to avoid these humans. The crow recognizes these humans by appearance. The crow changes behavior when these humans are present. The crow knows the humans who are kind. The crow recognizes the humans who provide food. The crow approaches these humans. The crow interacts positively with these humans. The crow knows the humans who are neutral, who neither threaten nor provide benefits. The crow maintains a cautious distance from these humans, but does not fear them. The crow has created a social map of the neighborhood. This map shows not physical locations, but human locations and human characteristics. This map tells the crow how to respond to different humans. The social map is detailed. The crow knows not just categories of humans, but specific individual humans. The crow recognizes specific humans by appearance. The crow remembers interactions with specific humans. The crow anticipates behaviors based on past interactions. This knowledge affects the crow's movement through the neighborhood. The crow avoids locations where dangerous humans frequent. The crow seeks out locations where kind humans live. The crow plans routes that encounter favorable humans and avoid hostile ones. The social geography is as important as the physical geography. The neighborhood is not just a place of streets and trees and buildings. The neighborhood is a social environment populated by beings with different characteristics and behaviors. The crow's navigation through the neighborhood incorporates this social knowledge. The crow is not just moving through space. The crow is moving through a social landscape. Researchers studying corvid social cognition have found that crows demonstrate memory for individual humans, with crows showing recognition and differentiated responses based on past human behavior, suggesting that crows create detailed social maps as part of their territorial knowledge. The humans are known, the characteristics are learned, the social geography is encoded. The crow's knowledge of the neighborhood is not static across seasons. The crow knows how the neighborhood changes. In spring, the crow knows which trees will produce new leaves and blossoms. The crow knows which locations will become suitable for nesting. The crow knows which food sources will become available. In summer, the crow knows which trees will produce fruit and seeds. The crow knows which water sources will remain available. The crow knows the peak activity times for insects and other food sources. In fall, the crow knows the harvest times for different seeds and nuts. The crow knows which locations will have migrating birds. The crow knows the preparation times when humans are working in yards. In winter, the crow knows which food sources become scarce. The crow knows which locations remain viable. The crow knows which humans might provide supplemental food. The crow knows where water remains unfrozen. The crow has created a temporal map of the neighborhood. This map shows not just space, but space across time. This map predicts what will be available when. The crow uses this temporal knowledge to plan ahead. The crow stores food in advance of scarcity. The crow moves to different locations at different times of year based on what will be available. The crow's understanding of the neighborhood includes understanding of cycles. The crow knows the neighborhood not as a fixed place, but as a place that changes systematically across the year. This knowledge is acquired through experience. A crow that has lived in a neighborhood for several years understands the seasonal patterns thoroughly. A younger crow might have less complete knowledge of seasonal changes. The knowledge is refined through observation. The crow notices which trees produce fruit in which months. The crow notices which human activities change seasonally. The crow notices the availability and scarcity of different resources across the year. Researchers studying seasonal memory in birds have found that migratory and non-migratory birds demonstrate accurate temporal memory, with birds showing anticipation of seasonal events and adjusting behavior accordingly, suggesting that birds encode temporal information about resource availability across seasons. The seasons are known, the changes are anticipated, the cycles are understood. The crow has encoded a geography of danger and safety. The crow knows which locations are dangerous. The crow knows the locations of predators. The crow knows which streets have high traffic. The crow knows which humans are hostile. The crow has marked these locations in its mental map as danger zones. The crow knows which locations are safe. The crow knows which trees provide refuge. The crow knows which buildings provide shelter. The crow knows which humans provide protection or at least non-threat. The crow has marked these locations as safe zones. The crow's navigation through the neighborhood incorporates this danger safety geography. The crow balances the need to access resources with the need to avoid danger. The crow might take longer routes if the shorter routes pass through danger zones. The crow's choices reflect sophisticated risk assessment. The crow understands trade-offs. The crow understands that some locations with good food are risky. The crow must decide whether the risk is worth the benefit. The crow learns about dangers through experience and through social learning. The crow learns by encountering danger directly. The crow also learns by observing other crows experiencing danger. The crow learns by hearing alarm calls from other crows warning of danger. Safe places are similarly learned. The crow discovers safe places through experience. The crow also learns about safe places from other crows. The social information shared about safety is important. Some locations are ambiguous, neither purely dangerous nor purely safe. The crow must assess these locations carefully. The crow might approach cautiously. The crow might avoid them entirely. The crow's decision depends on the specific context and the crow's tolerance for risk. The danger safety map is dynamic. As the crow's experience grows, new dangers are identified and added to the map. New safe places are discovered. The map is constantly refined based on new information. Researchers studying corvid risk assessment have found that crows demonstrate sophisticated understanding of danger, with crows showing context-dependent behaviors that suggest accurate risk evaluation, indicating that crows create and use danger safety maps in their territorial knowledge. The dangers are known, the safe places are marked, the risks are assessed. This is the revelation that explains the neurobiology of crow spatial knowledge. And it is the moment when you understand that the crow's mental map is not just behavioral. The crow's brain is physically structured to encode spatial information. Crows possess a brain structure called the hippocampus, which is analogous to the mammalian hippocampus and serves similar spatial memory functions. This structure encodes spatial information. This structure creates and maintains spatial representations. When the crow flies through the neighborhood, the hippocampus is constantly active. Spatial information is being encoded. New details are being added to the mental map. Previous memories are being retrieved and updated. The hippocampus works in concert with other brain regions. The visual cortex processes visual information about locations. The auditory system processes sounds associated with locations. The olfactory system processes smells. All of this sensory information is integrated into spatial memory. Place cells are neurons within the hippocampus that activate in response to specific locations. Different place cells activate in different places. The collective activation of place cells encodes the location. The pattern of place cell activation is the neural basis of the mental map. As the crow experiences a location repeatedly, the place cell representation becomes more refined. More details are encoded. More precise spatial information is stored. The mental representation becomes sharper and more accurate. The crow's repeated journeys through the neighborhood cause repeated activation of these place cells. Over months and years, the spatial memory becomes deeply encoded. The neighborhood is written into the crow's neural tissue. The spatial memory is not limited to visual information. The crow's memory includes the feel of the neighborhood, the textures, the temperatures, the air currents. The memory includes the sounds of the neighborhood, the traffic patterns, the bird calls, the human activities. The memory includes the smells of the neighborhood. The multimodal sensory encoding creates a rich representation. The crow knows the neighborhood not just visually, but through all senses. This neural encoding is why crow spatial memory is so accurate and persistent. The information is written into brain tissue. The memory is stable over time. The knowledge is retrievable and usable. Researchers studying corvid neurobiology have found brain structures and neural mechanisms in crows analogous to those supporting spatial memory in mammals, with corvid hippocampi showing evidence of place cell activity and spatial encoding, suggesting that crows use similar neurobiological mechanisms for spatial memory as mammals. The neurons are active, the memories are encoded, the map is neural. The crow's knowledge of the neighborhood does not exist only in the individual crow's mind. The knowledge is shared. Crows live in social groups. Young crows grow up surrounded by adult crows who already know the neighborhood. The young crows learn from the adults. The knowledge transmission happens through observation. Young crows watch adult crows foraging. Young crows observe the routes the adults take. Young crows learn where adults find food. Young crows learn which locations adults avoid. The knowledge transmission also happens through direct teaching. Adult crows may actively show young crows food sources. Adult crows may demonstrate safe routes. Adult crows may communicate about dangers through alarm calls and other vocalizations. The result is that young crows do not have to learn the neighborhood from scratch. Young crows inherit the knowledge of the group. Young crows acquire knowledge faster because of social learning. This social transmission of spatial knowledge means that the neighborhood knowledge is preserved across generations. When adult crows die, the younger crows carry the knowledge forward. The knowledge of the neighborhood is maintained by the crow community. This creates what might be called crow culture. The specific knowledge of a specific neighborhood is held by the crow population of that neighborhood. This knowledge is different from crow populations in different neighborhoods. Crows that migrate may carry knowledge of multiple neighborhoods. Crows may remember the geography of neighborhoods where they lived in previous years. This knowledge may be retained over many years. Some researchers suggest that this spatial knowledge might even be inherited in some form. Crows born in a neighborhood may have predispositions to learn spatial information more readily. Crows may inherit not the knowledge itself, but the capacity to acquire the knowledge of their natal territory. Researchers studying corvid cultural transmission have found that spatial knowledge and foraging strategies are shared within crow communities, with young crows showing learned behaviors consistent with social transmission of territorial information, suggesting that corvid spatial knowledge includes a cultural component passed between generations. The knowledge is shared, the transmission is social, the culture is maintained. And this is the revelation that explains the deepest significance of the crow's mental map. The neighborhood is not just a place the crow lives. The neighborhood is part of who the crow is. The crow's knowledge of the neighborhood becomes integrated into her identity. The crow comes to know herself as the crow of this neighborhood. The crow understands her place within a specific geography. The neighborhood becomes home not just physically but psychologically and neurologically. The crow's brain is structured by the neighborhood. The crow's mind is shaped by the specific place. If the crow is displaced from the neighborhood, the crow experiences a kind of displacement of self. The internal map no longer corresponds to external reality. The crow must rebuild her understanding of place. The crow must create a new mental map. Some crows show strong fidelity to neighborhoods. Some crows return to neighborhoods where they lived years ago. The crows remember the geography. The crows remember the food sources. The crows remember the safe places. The memory persists even when circumstances change. The neighborhood may have been altered. New buildings may have been constructed. Trees may have been cut down. But the crow's memory retains the knowledge of how the neighborhood was. The neighborhood becomes memory. The memory becomes identity. The identity becomes place-based. This shows something profound about crow consciousness. Crows are beings who know places. Crows are conscious of geography. Crows understand themselves in relation to place. When a crow moves through a neighborhood, the crow is not just foraging or traveling. The crow is moving through a known world. The crow is moving through a place of meaning and significance. The crow's journey through the neighborhood is a recitation of knowledge. Every flight reinforces the mental map. Every foraging trip traverses familiar routes. Every interaction with a human reaffirms the social geography. To watch a crow move through a neighborhood with knowledge and purpose is to witness a being navigating a world that is deeply known to that being. It is to see a mind that is structured by place. It is to observe consciousness expressing itself through spatial knowledge and memory. The neighborhood is not just where the crow lives. The neighborhood is who the crow is. Before I go, I want to ask you something, and I want you to answer in the comments below. Do you have crows in your neighborhood? Have you observed crow behavior and thought about what they might know? Have you noticed crows taking specific routes or visiting specific locations? Have you watched crows avoiding certain places or humans? Tell me about it. What have you observed? Do you think the crows know your neighborhood better than you do? Have you noticed seasonal changes in crow behavior? Have you seen young crows being taught by adults? The stories this hidden backyard wildlife community shares are some of the most perceptive I read every week. And every single one of them matters, because every single one of them is a story about recognizing intelligence in other beings, about understanding that consciousness and knowledge exist in forms different from human consciousness and knowledge. If anything in this video changed the way you understand the crows moving through your neighborhood, if it changed what you see when you watch a crow navigate your streets, share it with someone who would understand. Sometimes the right perspective at the right moment changes not just what we notice, but what we recognize about the intelligence of other beings. Thank you for being here at Hidden Backyard Wildlife. The next time you see a crow moving through your neighborhood, pause. Recognize that the crow is not moving randomly. The crow is navigating. The crow knows this place. The crow understands this geography. The crow has created a complete mental map of the neighborhood. The crow knows where food is located. The crow knows which humans are dangerous and which are safe. The crow knows the seasonal changes. The crow knows the dangers and the refuges. The crow carries this knowledge in her mind. The crow carries this neighborhood in her consciousness. The neighborhood is part of the crow's being. When you watch a crow move through your neighborhood, you are watching a mind that knows. You are witnessing consciousness expressed through spatial memory. You are observing a being engaged with place in a deep and meaningful way. This is not a simple bird. This is a being who knows a world. This is consciousness navigating a known landscape. This is intelligence expressed through memory and spatial understanding. That is what crows know about the neighborhoods they live in. That is the complete map drawn in their minds. I will see you in the next one.